Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Cloth, so this is a little of that prasad. And what you can do, you can put it inside a frame, and it's good to put a little note saying what it is. Otherwise, after some time, people will look and see. They'll wonder what it is.
You can put it on the altar? Or?
Yeah, you can do that. It's worshipable. It's none different from Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 8, Texts 54, 55 and 56, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON. Chanting of text 54. Shri Vaitalika Uchuhu Sabha Susatreshu Tavamalang Yasho Gitva Saparyam Maheting Labhamahe Yastamanaishi Dvashamesha Durjano Dvishtya Hataste Bhagavan Yatamayaha. The inhabitants of Vaitalika Loka said, Dear Lord, because of chanting your spotless glories in great assemblies and arenas of sacrifice, we were accustomed to great respect from everyone. This demon, however, usurped that position. Now, to our great fortune, you have killed this great demon exactly as one cures a chronic disease. Text 55. Shikinara uchuhu vayami shakinara ganastavanuga titijena vishtim amunanukaritaha bhavata hare savrijino vasadito narasinghanata vibhavaya no bhava. The Kinnaras said, O Supreme Controller, we are ever-existing servants of your Lordship, but instead of rendering service to you, we were engaged by this demon in his service constantly and without remuneration. This sinful man has now been killed by you. Therefore, O Lord Nrsimhadev, our Master, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Please continue to be our patron. Text 56. Sri Vishnu Parshada Uchuhu Adyaitadhari Nara Rupam Adbhutang Te Drishtang Sharanada Sarvaloka Sharama Soyang Te Vidhikara Isha Viprasaptas Tasyedang Nidhanang Anugrahaya Vidmaha. The associates of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha offered this prayer, O Lord, our supreme giver of shelter, today we have seen your wonderful form as Lord Nrsimhadev, meant for the good fortune of all the world. O Lord, we can understand that Hiranyakasipu was the same Jaya who engaged in your service, but was cursed by Brahmanas, and who thus received the body of a demon. We understand that his having now been killed is your special mercy upon him. Purport. Hiranyakashipu's coming to this earth and acting as the Lord's enemy was prearranged. Jaya and Vijay were cursed by the Brahmanas, Sanak, Sanat Kumar, Sanandana and Sanatan, because Jaya and Vijay checked these four Kumaras. The Lord accepted this cursing of his servants and agreed that they would have to go to the material world and would then return to Vaikuntha after serving the term of the curse. Jaya and Vijay were very much perturbed, but the Lord advised them to act as enemies, for then they would return after 3 births. Otherwise, ordinarily, they would have to take 7 births. With this authority, Jai and Vijay acted as the Lord's enemies, and now that these two were dead, all the Vishnu Dutas understood that the Lord's killing of Hiranyakashipu was special mercy bestowed upon them. Thus end the Bhakti-Vedanta purports of the 7th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Lord Nrsimhadev Slays the King of the Demons. Text 54, the inhabitants of Vaitalika Loka discuss how the Lord's spotless glories, Amalayasha, are chanted in great sacrifices. And this is they're just standing there before Lord Nrsimhadev, who has got the carcass of Hiranyakasipu still on his lap, and blood everywhere. Blood is inside the body under pressure. So when the body is cut out, it comes out with force. So the blood was spattered everywhere, and Hiranyakasipu had his intestines were around the Nrsimhadev. His hands, to get the intestines, you have to go deep inside. So up to here, it was covered in blood. And here the Vaitalikas are saying, we are praising your spotless glories. He seems to be a very bloodthirsty kind of person. Doesn't seem to be. You wouldn't think that God would do that. I think God would be very kind. Of course, Michelangelo painted God as an angry old man with a long beard, which was very white and long because he's the oldest person, so he must have got a long beard by now. There's no shaving foam up there, so he didn't get the chance to shave, or maybe he's so busy he didn't have time. So he has a long beard. That is one concept of God. But generally people think of God, He's very kind and very nice. God will bless us so that we can enjoy sense gratification more and more. They call Lord Jesus the Prince of Peace. Let us live in peace so that we can enjoy life very peacefully. Make love, not war. I saw this graffiti on the wall as I was coming. They don't understand, by making what they call love, having sex, they are making war. Because children born in lust, they are wild animals. And being full of lust, the younger brother of lust, and kama krodha, next is anger. Children born in lust are simply born in selfishness. So people don't understand all these things. Even when it comes to the matter of understanding God, they're very much ignorant. Mostly they don't even try to understand God. Even they may be belonging to some religious system, but mostly lip service. Dear God, we love you very much. Here's some money, a little bit. Not too much. Now you have to fulfill all my material desires. I already paid you. I put some money in the box, so you have to, it's your job to bless me so that I can enjoy life. So mostly if we were to tell people, well, what is your concept of God? If we tell them He's a cowherd boy, it's very difficult for them to understand. Why on earth should he be a cowherd boy? If we tell them sometimes He takes the form of a hog, then they become more difficult. If we say He's a half man, half lion, who comes out of a pillar and rips people to pieces, not only Hiranyakasipu, and all the soldiers here, he was in extreme anger. All the associates of Hiranyakasipu found out that reincarnation is a fact. They may have doubted it, being atheists, but they found out when they came in association with Nrsimhadeva. So here he is, half man, half lion. And I think, well, this sounds like some fantastic stories. When the British came to India, they wanted to blaspheme the Vedic culture, because they said if we keep the Indians as Indians, we can never rule over them, because they don't care. We are the British and this and that. They'll just go on with their pujas and everything. We have to control their minds. So they wanted to blaspheme the Vedic literatures. And they said, how can you believe all these things? God is half man, half lion. How can you believe such things? Because their idea of God, of course, they say He's a lamb. Sometimes they say he's a burning bush, but half man, half lion. You say, oh well, we can't believe this. But then if God is not like that, then why should we think he's God? We say God is great. Allahu Akbar. In different languages they say different ways. God is great. But everyone is thinking, I am great. So then if you think God is great, well, I'm so great, I'm this much great. And then maybe God is that much great. But no, he's unlimitedly great. That means he can do whatever he likes. If he wants to come in the form of half man, half lion, who is to say? You're going to stand there with a book according to rule number 56, section A. God cannot take the form of a half man, half lion. You may make such laws. God will laugh. When Nrsingadev laughs, all the wives of the demons had miscarriage. You remember reading that? He was laughing fiercely, and the wives of the demons, they're also afraid that now he has come as death personified. Hiranyakasipu didn't want to accept that Vishnu is supreme. Actually, he knew it. We find that when Hiranyaksha was killed, that all the relatives, they were lamenting. So Hiranyakasipu, he was after all the son of a great Brahmana. So he had Vedic knowledge. So he pacified all the relatives, telling the story of how Yamaraj himself came and in a similar situation, that one king, he was killed, and Yamaraj came and pacified, saying that after all, we go through so many lives, it's not only one life. And Hiranyakasipu, in that narration, he accepts that Vishnu is supreme, but he didn't understand that Vishnu is eternally supreme. He thought he could take his position. In other words, his understanding of Lord Vishnu, even though he was a Vedic scholar, even though he understood Vishnu to be supreme, he was envious of that supremacy because he wanted to be supreme. Therefore, he couldn't understand that his attempt to become immortal was impossible. It's not possible by any material means. And his attempt to control the universe is impossible. Even though he was superficially controlling, he couldn't control his lust or anger or greed, and therefore he was always miserable. People want to be happy by getting material possessions. If I only had a nice car, or a nicer car than the person next door, if I had more money, then I would be happy. But it's not a fact. You see here in Austria, people, they have sufficient of everything. I don't think there's any poverty here. Maybe there may be some drunks in the city who, mostly everywhere, there's some people like that. But the people in general, if they live the life as a decent, normal, respectable Austrian citizen, then they will have a nice house to live in, car to drive in, sufficient money, food is there, fresh air is there, everything you need. But are they happy? Are the people dancing in ecstasy in the streets? Some people are members of the Hare Krishna movement, but then they're arrested if they do that. So they don't allow that. In Austria, no one should be dancing in the streets. It's not respectable. No Hare Krishna is dancing in the streets. We don't want you to break our illusion that we are. Of course we're happy. I have money. I have fashions. I have lipstick. What more do I need? We have all we need. Every house, dish antenna, so you can watch 60 varieties of TV programs. But the people are not happy because they don't know how to be happy. That Prahlad Maharaj already told Hiranyakasipu, Nate vidu swarta gating hi vishnum durasya ye bahiratamanenas. That because you don't accept that the goal of life is to understand Vishnu, therefore, durasha, you are hoping against hope to be happy in this material world. Hiranyakasipu, he was a firm believer in material happiness. You can say he is the archetypal materialist. He believed that if I just perform these austerities, let me go through all difficulties, then I will gain power, or I will become so powerful I can rule the universe. But it's all durasha, misplaced hope, because it is not possible to be happy by any arrangement. Just see, great example, Hiranyakasipu. He had conquered the universe means, here you'll find the different inhabitants of different planets, they're lamenting because their wives were stolen by Hiranyakasipu. So the materialistic person, generally they think, yes, if I could get more money and more power, then I would enjoy so many women. But Hiranyakasipu had all the women in the universe at his disposal, and all the wine in the universe, and all the money and all the gold, and people respecting him out of fear. He was very pleased to see that even Indra, if he just put his eyebrow up a little bit like this, then Indra would be shaking. The great Indra would be shaking in fear. So Hiranyakasipu thought, I will be happy in such a way. But he wasn't happy. Durasha. He was trying to be happy on the external platform. He doesn't know that the goal of life is Lord Vishnu. Then how can he understand Vishnu? The topic of Krishna consciousness is a great mystery to the non-devotees. They cannot understand. Of course, in their secular, liberal, humanistic way of thinking, they may think, yes, well, they like to dress like that. It's okay. If they like to do, they can do like that. The more liberal kind of people, they may think, yes, let them. If they want, it's the modern world. Everyone should do whatever they like. Just don't tell me what to do, that's all. Don't preach to me. So they may superficially accept that, yes, Hare Krishna is also nice. It's also something cultural, modern, we're very liberal, we accept all these things. But to understand what is Krishna consciousness, for the materialistic person, it remains a great mystery. Therefore in Gita, Lord Krishna says, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. This is the king of all knowledge and the most secret of all secrets. How is it secret? At least in India, you can get Gita for 1 rupee. I carry around in my pocket 1 rupee, verses only. Gita Press, Gita. And there are so many people, they will speak on Gita. Of course, now it's becoming less common, but still it's going on. And we're distributing these books all over the world now in different languages. So it's openly distributed. Then how is it the most secret of all secrets? Because you cannot understand Bhagavad-gita simply by reading it. You have to hear it from an acharya, and you have to enter into the spirit of Gita. That Prabhupada in the introduction to Bhagavad-gita, this introduction to Bhagavad-gita is very, very important. Practically, it's very difficult to understand Bhagavad-gita unless we study this Gita because in the very beginning, Prabhupada sets the terms and conditions for understanding Bhagavad-gita. It's not that you just pick it up and read it. Oh yeah, I read Bhagavad-gita. People, you'll find so many intellectuals, they like to read different classics. They'll read, yes, I read War and Peace, and I read, in German you have that glass bead game, you must know the German. These are considered great classics of the world. And I read Bhagavad-gita. I already read it, so alright, put it away again. But you can't understand Bhagavad-gita like that. You have to understand, how do you understand? You have to understand in the way that Arjuna understood it. Arjuna understood Bhagavad-gita within 1 hour. Krishna spoke Bhagavad-gita, and then Arjuna came to the conclusion, Nashto moha smritiya labdha tvat prasadan maya chita stitosmi gata sandeha karishe vachanam tava. Arjuna admits, I was in illusion, but now that is destroyed. I have regained my consciousness, Krishna consciousness, by your mercy. Achyuta. He addresses Krishna in this verse as Achyuta. Achyuta means he who never falls down. Arjuna, he may be covered by illusion because he is jiva, but Krishna can never be covered by illusion. Krishna's Krishna consciousness is never destroyed. He's always fully Krishna conscious. He understands, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what he told Arjuna. So, Nashto moha smritiya labdha tvat prasadan maya achyuta stitosmi. Now I'm fixed in my position. Gata Sandeha, all my doubts have gone. Therefore, what is the conclusion? Karishye Vachanam Tava, I will follow your instructions. He had full faith that whatever Krishna tells me to do, that is perfect. Sarvam etadritang manye yanmang vadasi Keshava. Whatever you say, Krishna, I accept as truth. So Arjuna, because he was willing to accept everything Krishna said as fact, gospel truth. That saying is there in English, probably in German also. Is it? Gospel truth means as true. I swear on the Bible, still in the courts. Here also, you have to go into court. I swear on the Bible. I haven't got a clue what's inside it. But anyway, I swear on it. Because we accept this is sacred. This is the words of God. This is fact. Whatever here is unarguable against. So, because Arjuna accepted like that, therefore he was able to understand. How can we understand that God is a cowherd boy? It does. I mean, if you think about it logically, all right, okay, we'll accept there's a God. Actually, logically, rationally, if we're to understand God, it's not a very difficult thing to understand. The so-called rationalists, they don't want to accept God because they only want to believe what they can see, touch, hear, taste, smell, and feel. They believe in, I believe in my senses. So the very first principle of so-called rationalism is irrational. Because why should you believe in what you can understand through your senses? If you see, I may see something, misunderstand what it is. Just that what is that in the beginning of Bhagavad-gita? Tejo vari mridang yata. The vinimeo yatrati. That it's this material illusion is just like seeing earth in the water. Sometimes you may see in the water, you may look out at the sea, and you may see something you misunderstand, that it's some island or something like that. In Rajasthan, in the desert, one part of India, early in the morning, it's a quite common thing, mirage, that you see at some distance, not very far away, a whole town, but it's not there. It's just a mirage. It's reflected somehow. The scientists, they can explain that it's through refraction of light or something. A town which is actually some many miles away looks as if it's very close. So that is an illusion. There's so many ways our senses are imperfect. Just like I see here on this door, I see a window, but there's no window there. It's only a reflection of a window. This morning, just when the sun was rising, I was looking through the door. There's a glass in the door in my room, the room I'm staying in, and I was trying to work out: is it a mirror or am I actually seeing through? Is it glass or is it clear glass or is it a mirror? Because my sense in the early morning I couldn't understand because the sense, even though you see, you can't properly understand it. Maybe you've seen some pictures. They draw a picture and you can't. You look at it one way, it looks like a young girl. You look at it another way, it looks like an old woman. And there are so many things like that. So in so many ways the senses are imperfect. So why should we believe what we see with our senses? How much can we see? If we're to get knowledge of the stars within the universe, what will we do? We'll look at them? And what will we know? Or even if we look through a telescope, how much more can we know? Even if you talk all nonsense that you're going to the moon or Mars, and even if you go there, which we don't believe, you rascal, they're saying very cheap mission to Mars, only $20 billion. Look at that. That's cheating. They were saying we're making very cheap mission, only $20 billion. Very cheap. Okay, if you think it's very cheap, give it to us. It's only $20 billion. Anyway, that's another one of your defects, cheating propensity. So with all these defects, Brahm Pramad Vipralipsa Karana Patav, cheating, that means we make mistakes. We are in illusion. Brahm Pramad Vipralipsa, cheating propensity, and Karana Patav, imperfect senses. Then how can we understand anything clearly? So the very first principle of rationalism is that we will understand Their senses, we're always making mistakes. And our intelligence is limited also. Just like if we see an ant, say if there's one ant crawling here. Now the ant is also in the same place as we are. The ant is also seeing, touching, smelling, tasting, feeling. But because his sensory powers are very limited and his intelligence is very limited, he can't understand that we're in a room, it's a Hare Krishna temple, and we're chanting Hare Krishna, or he can't understand how this room came into being, or even that it's a room. For him, it's just what is. For him, the ant's whole universe is from a hole in the wall, which you probably don't have here, but in India it's a very common thing. You'll find the ants crawling inside the room. So his whole universe is from here to here. There's one grain of sugar here. And the Paramatma has directed him, Ishvara, Sarva Bhutanam, Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati, Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, Yantrarudhani Mayaya. The super soul within the heart of every living being directs. The ant is in the hole there, and for him it's like going from Vienna to Moscow or something, from here to here, by his calculation. But he finds that here in Moscow there is one grain of sugar, and they all come out and bring it. So that for the ant, that's everything, that's all he knows. So similarly for us, why should we presume that we can know everything simply by our senses and intelligence? It's a very grossly puffed up conception that, well, we didn't see God, therefore we don't accept Him. You see God, you are seeing God, but you don't know. Even if you saw God, how would you understand? How would you understand God? Just like people ask us, can you show us God? Yes. But even if we show Him to you, you won't see Him. You'll just see some wooden statue. You won't understand how God is God. How can you? You don't even know what God means. You're saying, show us God. What do you mean by God? And they'll say, well, some light. Okay, turn on the light. That's God for you. What do you understand about God? Just like someone may say, well, show me. I may say to the scientist, show me subatomic particles. Prove it. So how are they going to prove it? They'll do some experiment. When I say, well, I didn't see any subatomic particles. No, but we showed. You have to. The point is, if there's a trained scientist, when he sees the experiment, he will understand, yes, this shows subatomic particles. But for a layman, he just sees some tube and some electricity flashes. He doesn't understand. So really seeing means to understand what you're seeing. Just like a child. Daddy, what is this? This is a book. And then the child accepts. The child doesn't argue with the father. I don't believe it's a book, it's a horse. You can argue, but how will you understand? The father tells you, this is a book. And then the child puts the book in his mouth and rips it and throws it. He doesn't know what to hit someone on the head with it. And then the father has to explain. The book is meant, you have to look after it carefully, it's meant for reading. So if the child just has to accept. The child, if he argues, then how can he understand? Of course, you could use the book as a weapon. You could go through your whole life thinking that books are meant for hitting people on the head with. So that's also possible. But then you won't get the benefit from the book of understanding the knowledge therein. So in the very beginning, to understand a subject, you have to accept what those who are in knowledge of that subject tell you. Therefore, understanding, Prabhupada said, means standing under. If you want to challenge everything, I don't believe in God. Who are you to say? What are you? Some tiny little being in a tiny little universe, and you're only living for a very short span of life, and you want to defy God. And you think, well, according to my opinion, in my opinion, what does it matter about what your opinion is?
That's why so many people, they ask us, well, what do you believe in? We don't believe in anything. Why should we? What's the value of our belief? If I say I believe in something, what is the value? We're not interested in just believing. We want to know what the truth is. You say, well, what do you believe in? Well, we believe in Krishna, he's blue, he's a cowboy. Oh, okay, well, I believe something else. Your opinion is they have this idea, your opinion is as good as mine. Any opinion, it's all, everything's okay. Whatever you want to believe, it's all right. But what's the value of someone, you're believing, you're a tiny living being, and what does it matter what you believe? I believe in God. And tomorrow I don't believe in God, so God ceased to exist. And the next day, now I believe in God again. So God came back to life. No. God is not dependent upon our belief. Facts are facts. Just like you may believe 2 + 2 = 5. You can say it's a democratic country. I can believe whatever I like. So what if you want to teach that to your children? And you want to teach, and you'll teach the history book. In the history, Hitler was the president of Russia. And Brezhnev was a film star in Hollywood. And you teach your children all these things. And do you have homeschooling here that's allowed by the government? Probably, because of all the mountains and everything. So if you teach all these things, will the government allow you? Modern history, sit for the exam. Brezhnev was a rock and roll star. And Hitler was the president of Russia. And then you won't be able to teach your child anymore because you're teaching nonsense. 2 + 2 = 5. And then you can say, well, it's a democratic country. I can teach my child whatever I like. I believe 2 + 2 = 5. Who are you to say that I have the right to my own opinion? Yeah, you have the right to your own opinion. You may kindly exercise your right inside the mental hospital, crazy house. Because some things, they are axiomatic facts. And what is a fact? You can't change it according to opinion. Fact is, 2 + 2 = 4. 1 million times out of 1 million, if you take 2 apples and you bring another 2 apples, you'll always get 4 apples. You'll never get 3 apples or 5 apples or 7.5 apples. It's a fixed fact. So what is the fact? They may discuss, does God exist? It's not, do you believe in God? It doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. God's existence is not dependent upon our belief. Rather, we are dependent upon Him. So, what is the fact? That we have to understand. That's why Prabhupada would always used to say, people used to ask, what do you believe in? Prabhupada would say, it is not a question of belief. It is a science. Science means to understand what is the fact. That's why we see here in Bhagavatam, it is stated, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. This is scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Bhagavat Tattva, knowledge of God, scientifically explained. By which understanding, Mukta Sangasya Jayate, one becomes freed from material illusion. So what we are studying, we accept as a fact. Nrsimhadev has come. It doesn't seem like, well, God is very kind. Yes, this is His kindness. Because Hiranyakasipu is such a demon. If you're kind, if you're nice to such a person, he will simply take advantage and exploit you. That is the nature of a demon. Just like a snake. Payopanam bhujanganam kivala vishavardhanam upadesho himurkhanam prakopaya nakalpate. Just like if a snake, if you give milk, you may think, some poisonous snake, let me be kind to the snake. Be kind to snakes. Feed them with milk. Then simply the snake, by drinking that milk, the poison will increase more and more and more. And that poison is burning within his teeth, so he feels, I have to bite. And he'll bite you, and you'll die. So in the same way, if you give good instruction to a fool, he will simply become angry. Just like Hiranyakasipu, prime example. Prahlad Maharaj gave him very good instruction, meant for his benefit. Nate vidu svatagating hi Vishnum durashaye bahiratamanina. You don't know the goal of life. That is Vishnu. You're simply trying to be happy on the external platform. But it's hope against hope. It's useless. Therefore, vanang hidvata patam grihamanda kupam vanangato yadhirim ashriyeta. The best thing for you, my dear father, you give up all this nonsense, so-called material enjoyment, which isn't making you happy anyway. Go to the forest, go to Vrindavan, and worship Krishna. So, Hiranyakasipu, he was by nature angry like a snake, because he's a demon. Dambho darpa vimanascha, krodha, parishamevacha, agyana chabhijatasya, partha sambhadam asurim. This, in Gita, Krishna has listed the qualities of the demons. Dambha, darpa, abhiman, these are all similar terms. Conceit, arrogance, false pride, puffed up like anything. Krodha, angry, all unnecessarily anger. Parusham, harsh speech, very, very cruel behavior. Agyana, in ignorance. These are all the bad qualities of the demons. Even they may appear to be very learned, like Hiranyakasipu was very learned, but actually he was in ignorance. Maya aparita jnana. His knowledge, his actual knowledge was covered by illusion. So demons, they're naturally angry, but what will make them more angry? If you tell them, you give up this materialistic way of life, surrender to Krishna. Just like, I think some of you may be disciples of Harikesh Maharaj, mostly in this zone. Yeah. So I was hearing one tape of his. I think he was speaking, he was in Austria. Maybe, anyway, somewhere. And I think it was here he was speaking. He was speaking about here. He was in Vienna, and he was asking people directions, how to go here and there. Remember this? Was it here? And they're so friendly and nice and helpful. And he's thinking, well, actually, these people are very nice. But then he thought, if you tell them, now surrender to Krishna, then they won't be very nice. Then they'll become very angry. Why are you telling me this? You rascal. Hare Krishna. Don't tell me that. So that is the nature of a demon. Even Hiranyakasipu wanted to be nice to Prahlad. Even the demons, they're nice to their own children. They may be. Of course, nowadays, it's very dangerous to be a child in the modern world. You don't know what's going to, even in your home, you don't know what's going to happen. Your loving parents, what they will do to you. But generally, even the demons, they are affectionate to their children. Just like Hiranyakasipu wanted Prahlad to be a nice demon like him. Therefore, he was very concerned that he be trained up in demoniac principles, teaching him you should learn Sama, Veda, Dana, Danda, how to be an expert politician like me. 4 principles of politics. If there's someone against you, try and pacify him. Say, look, it's not good to be against I'm the king and you shouldn't be against me. And, you should be a good citizen. Try and pacify him. We love you. If that doesn't work, then you divide your enemies and this way make them weak and rule over them. If that doesn't work, offer them some bribe that, why are you against me? You want to get my post, I can understand. You won't say that, but why don't you become a minister in my government? And then the same. All right, because after all, he's against the ruler because he wants to be the ruler. He wants to, instead of the present ruler exploiting the people, he wants I should exploit. So he thinks, well, at least if I become a minister, I can exploit to a good extent without too much problem. So Samabeda Dan, give him a post, give him a bribe. That doesn't work, danda, smash him. So these are the principles of politics. Punish him severely. So Hiranyakasipu wanted his son, Prahlad, that just like me, you'll be a great demon and rule over the world and rule over the universe. How nice. He asked him, Prahlad, what have you learned at school? And he wanted Prahlad to reply, I've learned how to torture your enemies and trick them. Prahlad said, what did he say? What is the best thing I've learned? Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam padasevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atmanivedanam iti pungsarpita Vishnu bhaktis chainava lakshana kriyeta bhagavatyadha tanmanyedhitam uttamam. The best thing I have learned, my dear friend, twice he asked him, one time he told him, is hearing about Krishna, chanting His holy names, glorifying Him, remembering Him, worshipping His lotus feet, worshipping Him in the temple, offering Him prayers, becoming His servant, becoming His friend, and offering everything to Him. This is this 9 processes of devotional service I consider this to be the best thing that I have learned. And Hiranyakasipu, he was so upset that I took so much trouble to get the best teachers. And now they're supposed to train, and what he's coming up with his worship of Vishnu. There couldn't be anything worse. Vishnu is the family enemy because he killed. Anyway, demons, they all hate Vishnu. But especially because he'd already killed Hiranyaksha, my dearly beloved brother, enemy of the family. Vishnu is the enemy of the family. Just like I was just in Croatia. So if you say anything, Serbs are very nice, then the Croatians won't be very nice to you. Because they are enemies. We hate them. So in the same way, can you imagine if someone is born in a nice Hrvatsky Croatian family and he's brought up, they're so much into everything. They've got pictures, their flag everywhere and hats, and they're so much into being Croatian because for the first time in so many 100 years they had the opportunity to have their own state. So imagine if someone is brought up in a nice Croatian family and then he goes to school and learns how wonderful Croatia is, the best country in the world, the best people in the world, the best culture in the world. And then they ask him at school, he comes home from school, and parents ask, well, what have you learned at school? And he said, Serbia is wonderful. They're great people. We love them. And they think, what? They couldn't imagine anything worse. What are they teaching you at school? Where did you get that from? So then they'll complain to the teachers, and the preacher will say, well, I didn't teach them that. We taught them, what we're supposed to teach, that Croatia is wonderful. Or in this case, Shanda and Amarka were teaching how to be a first-class demon. School for demons. So they were, what happened? I mean, he's only a young boy, and we kept him in the palace. We never let him out. We didn't see any Vaishnavas coming. How did he learn all these things? How is it possible? What's going on? So then these school friends of Prahlad, they were asking that because Prahlad was preaching to them. He was a real preacher. That secretly, when all the teachers would go out, he'd preach to them. Hey, come on, let's chant Hare Krishna. He said, well, how did you learn that? You're just like us. You're brought up. It's only demons here. We're all sons of demons. There's no Vaishnavas here. If any Vaishnavas came here, we'd chop off their head. We already oppressed all the Brahmanas in the universe. And just like here in this verse it said, Sabhasu Satreshu Tavamalam Yasha, that Lord Vishnu is praised in sacrifices and glorious assemblies, but Hiranyakasipu had already stopped all those sacrifices and already stopped all those assemblies. So what to speak of in the very palace of Hiranyakasipu, nowhere in the universe was glorification of Vishnu going on. It had been stopped, completely banned. No glorification of Vishnu. Against the law. Don't chant Hare Krishna. And this boy Prahlad, he was born in such an atmosphere where it had already been stopped from before his birth. So how is it possible? So Prahlad explained, I learned it in the womb. My guru, Narad Muni, taught me this within the womb. Therefore, I cannot, because I remember that, what he taught me, I cannot subscribe to the theories of Hiranyakasipu, that he thinks he's the greatest person in the universe, but he's just a fly before Lord Vishnu, before the demigods, before Indra. He's so powerful. Indra is like a fly before Hiranyakasipu. Indra is so proud. He's ruling the universe with his thunderbolt. But in front of Hiranyakasipu, just like a jelly baby, insignificant. But Hiranyakasipu, he's thinking he's so great, but Prahlad knows. He already heard from his guru what is the actual situation. That Vishnu, he is actually supreme. He is powerful. Just like the cat may allow the mouse to, the cat captures the mouse and allows the mouse to run away. And then again the cat goes, got you. So like that, when Nrsingadev was playing with Hiranyakasipu, that actually happened. That Nrsingadev captured him. Then he let him go again. Just like a cat plays with the mouse. And Hiranyakasipu said, all right, now I'm free. Now I'll fight with him again. Then he captured him again. Then the demigods said, hey, why don't you just kill him? Because they were afraid that you're letting him go again, you never know, he might get away, and then who knows? And we're all standing here cheering you on. Come on, Vishnu, kill him. Well, what happens if he gets away? See, they also didn't have that full faith. What happens if he gets away, or maybe if, Nrsingadev just gets fed up and goes back to Vishnu Loka, and then Hiranyakashipu's left here, and we're left here, and we were all cheering Lord Vishnu, and Hiranyakashipu, kill him, please! Don't keep us in suspense. So then he killed him. Actually, he could kill him very easily. But that's his Leela. Who can understand? The devotees, they can understand. Otherwise, for the non-devotees, they can't even begin to understand. When they try to understand, what do they come up with? An old man with a long beard, looking very ugly because he's so old, sitting on the edge of a cloud. Because God's up there somewhere, so I suppose he must be sitting on a cloud. That's their idea. And he's the first person, therefore he's very old. What happened? Oh, okay. I thought you were protesting. Some representative of Hiranyakashipu. We can take, if anyone wants to represent Hiranyakashipu, we can discuss with them. So, like that, even if they try to understand God, they come just imagination. They don't have proper knowledge, and therefore now they have so many imagine God is some light, or God is dead. He created the world a long time ago, and we didn't see Him. So probably, it's just like missing in action, presumed dead. Must be dead by now. I mean, if He created the world thousands of years ago, He's already dead. And what's the use praying to Him? We're praying to Him for our daily bread. We get that anyway, so what's the use of praying to Him? Okay, God is dead. Put Him in the graveyard with everybody else. That's where church is for graveyards, right? So probably He's in one of those graves somewhere. So they have so many wrong ideas because they didn't hear from the right source. But if you hear from Narad Muni or his representative, then even if all the demons come and give you so many theories, you'll never be swayed by them. They're all talking nonsense. This theory, that theory, Big Bang theory, Little Bang theory, Middle Bang theory, No Bang theory, string theory, solid state theory. Everything just is existing theory. So many different theories they have. But they're just like babies talking nonsense. Even if they talk with big long words, scientific formula. They don't have a clue what's going on. They don't know what's going on in the universe. What's going on, we know. If you know one verse from Bhagavad-gita, you'll have more knowledge of the universe than all these scientists with their Hubble-bubble spacecraft and telescopes. And Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Konteya Jagad Viparivartate. This whole cosmic manifestation is going under my direction, Krishna says. And all moving and non-moving beings are produced by my control. Everyone is under Krishna's control. So just if we understand that. And how to understand is very simple. You hear from God's representative, He tells you. You accept it. And then you understand it. How can we understand that God is a half man, half lion? How do you understand? You just accept it, that's all. And then you understand. All the devotees, they can understand. We don't have any difficulty to understand. Because we just accept it. Okay, He's God. He can do what He likes. If He's God means He's the controller of everything. He can do whatever He likes. Otherwise, if you say God, well, I believe in God, but I don't think He could be like that, then you don't believe in God, because He can be however He likes. He can be a burning bush, He can be half man, half lion, He can be a boar that comes out of the nostril and then becomes so big He picks up the earth. Otherwise, what's the meaning of being God? If He's just some ordinary guy like you or me, then what's the meaning of His being God? If He doesn't perform extraordinary activities which are beyond our imagination, then how is He God? So this is the meaning of God. Extraordinary. Adbhuta Shri, we say. Adbhut. Wonderful to such an extent we cannot imagine. No one imagined that God would come out of a pillar in a half man, half lion form. No one would imagine that God would come out of the nostril of Lord Brahma in the form of a pig. No one would imagine that God could be a cowherd boy. If you have a conference on the nature of God and you try to discuss, bring all the Christians and Muslims and this, what is the nature of God? Try to understand by your rational intelligence. And then we'll come and say, well, actually you don't know. The actual nature of God is that He's a cowherd boy, He's bluish, and He plays on a flute, and He steals the gopis' clothes. And I say, well, how can we? It doesn't seem like God. But God is as He is, not as you think He should be. He's not limited by your powers of thinking. He's unlimited. Therefore He does whatever He likes. Whatever He likes, that is for the good of everybody. That is for the mercy. That is His mercy. Being very merciful to Hiranyakasipu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead ripped his body to pieces. That is His mercy. That's His mercy. He gave him liberation, and He showed, after all, who is God. Hiranyakasipu is not God. If Hiranyakasipu had just been given some mild treatment, then that wouldn't have been mercy. The mercy is to show to the whole universe, to establish that however great one may be, by any material acquisition of knowledge or power, he is still under the control of God. He's not independent. So there are so many points to be understood from these narrations in Bhagavatam. They're not simply just some stories, but so many important points to be understood. Therefore we should discuss daily this Srimad Bhagavatam, try to enter into this understanding. We'll never come to the end of understanding. There's no end to understanding the glories of Krishna. Therefore we should go on discussing. Become absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. I remember that once Prabhupada said that we should make Bhagavatam our life. So I was thinking about that. What does that mean? That means we should read Bhagavatam. Not just read, but study. Hear Bhagavatam. Tatrinvan supatam. In Bhagavatam itself it is stated. We should hear it, study very carefully. Vicharana paro, applying our intelligence to understand the subject matter. Vicharana paro, vimuchendaraha.
Anyone who does this will go back to Godhead. That is the promise of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should live according to Srimad Bhagavatam, distribute Srimad Bhagavatam to others. In this way make Bhagavatam our life. Hare Krishna. Is there any question?
Regarding the nature of demons, sometimes it is said that demonic qualities are caused by modes of nature, especially mode of ignorance and passion, and this makes them a demon. But because originally all devotees. But on the other hand, sometimes you see persons who are totally engrossed in the mode of ignorance, but they are not demons. When they hear about God, and they accept, yes, God is supreme, but they're just so in ignorance, very simple, ignorant people. But they're not demoniac.
That means they're in mixed modes of nature. They are demoniac because if they're ignorant, that means they're taking intoxication. They're not pursuing the goal of life. So they're, by habits, they're demoniac. But because they desired to be in such a situation, they have acquired such a situation. But they may have also some, because you see the whole thing is coming on, the mentality is acquired from previous lives. So they may have some pious credits also. Actually, most of the people of the world are innocent but misguided. So most of the people of the world are demons in the sense that they are acting as demons. Because they are misled by the big demons. Prabhupada said most of the people of the world are innocent, but they are misled. So because they're misled, they're acting as demons. But if they get proper guidance, they can become devotees. Not everyone's like Hiranyakasipu, that they become against that. But even it may be that their concept of God, it's it's not a purified understanding. That you say, yes, I believe in God, but they want to have God they want to put Him in a box as their order supplier. That you stay in the church, I'll come once a year or once a week or whatever, and then you just have to do whatever I want you to do, and I'll only believe in you in the way that I want to believe in you. In other words, the surrender is not there, and the attempt to understand God and dedicate to God is not there. Their idea is that God will bless us for our sense gratification. So that's called Prakrita Bhakti. That Prakrita neophyte devotee is called Prakrita Bhakti. Means they're devotees, but they're on the material platform. Prakrita means on the material platform. It means they want to use God for their sense gratification. They're not serious to understand God as He is. That means that they're also some kind of devotee, but they're also very materialistic. So they're like mixed demon and devotee. I mean, they're not against the existence of God, but then but they're also, if you try to push them into understanding God as He is and surrendering to Him, then they'll become angry. So they're even in their concept of God, it's not devotional. They're even in their concept of God, they're retaining a demoniac attitude. That's why they can't understand Him. And they don't want to understand Him. So, just if someone says they believe in God, all right, in some way that's better than being totally against. But that doesn't make him a saintly person in itself. Just like nowadays in our movement, there's books written by some New Age guru who, of course, one of the things he says is that in his books is you shouldn't become anyone's disciple, although he's a New Age guru. He's writing books and teaching so many things. So within our movement, those who are promoting his habits, which he asks us to follow, they say, well, he believes in God. And that doesn't make him doesn't mean he's a self-realized person, free from the 4 defects, or that he can help us to understand God.
means his goal of life is sense gratification, and God is supposed to help him in that. That's his concept of God. But the concept of surrendering to him, giving up sense gratification, they have no idea. Therefore Krishna says, Sarvadhaman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja. All concepts less than this, even if it's I believe in God, less than fully surrendering to him, should be given up. And that is the beginning of devotional life, when one is prepared to accept, at least in principle, to surrender to Krishna. So simply to say I believe in God, all right, that's better than saying I don't believe in God. But then you should try to understand God. Just like Prabhupada would say, well, people say God is great, but how great He is, that you should understand. Don't just leave it at that. It's not enough just to leave it at that. God is great, God is love, God is beauty, God is goodness. They want to leave it at that. Don't take it any further. But we know, you have to go further. God is great, all right, let Him be great. God is in heaven, let Him be in heaven, let Him stay there. And I'll stay here. And I'll enjoy my sense gratification.
Krishna said in Bhagavad-gita there are just two kinds of persons, demons and devotees. So how can you see the innocent then? Because Brahma talks about it.
Yes. Actually, when he says innocent, that means it's a degree. And everyone in this material world is mudha. Why have we come to this world? Because of the demoniac desire to enjoy sense gratification. But some, among the demons, there are some who are more willing to open up to their original position of Krishna consciousness. So there are degrees of... Just like there are two kinds of living beings, devotees and demons, but it's not that all devotees are on the same level. Some are very advanced and some are neophyte. So some are very advanced demons and some are neophyte. So neophyte, the neophyte devotee and neophyte demon, they may be, in other words, less advanced devotee means he has more material desires. But he's still trying to worship Krishna. And someone may be demon, his goal of life is sense gratification, but he has some inclination towards God. That's the turning point. Devotee means his life is basically centered on Vishnu. Vishnu bhakta bhavet daiva asuryas tadviparaya. That, what is the definition? That is there in Gita. Dvo bhuto sarge lokesmin daiva asura evacha. That there are two kinds of beings in this world, demons and devotees. Then that same two lines comes in Padma Purana with explanation that Vishnu Bhakta Bhavet Daiva, who is a devotee of Vishnu, he is a devotee, and demons are just the opposite. So someone who makes his Nate vidu swata gating hi Vishnu. The demons do not accept that the goal of life is Vishnu. So one who accepts that the goal of life is Vishnu, he's a devotee, but he may have many material desires. So one who accepts that the goal of life is Vishnu, but still has many material desires, and particularly if he's trying to fulfill them also, at the same time as worshipping Krishna, then he's a devotee, but he's still mixed up with actually demoniac desires. Material desires are demoniac desires to enjoy this material world. But then a demon, he may accept superficially the existence of God, but his goal of life is to enjoy sense gratification. So a full-fledged demon, he is just out and out for sense gratification with no acceptance of God. But then there may be a less staunch demon who his goal of life is sense gratification, and superficially he may accept the existence of God. That means he's in the prakrita bhakta. When you say prakrita bhakta, actually these two terms are contradictory, because a bhakta is always aprakrita. He is transcendental. Mangchayovya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who takes the devotional service of Krishna, he crosses beyond the modes of material nature and comes to the transcendental platform. So the term Prakrita Bhakta actually is two contradictory terms. Materialistic devotee. That means he's not actually really become a devotee. He's in the midway position between being a demon and a devotee. So there's midway position also. There's two basic categories. And there's the sun, just like there's day and there's night. But there's also twilight, sandhya. Sandhya means the in-between position. That Hiranyakasipu didn't think about when he asked his boons from Brahma. I will not be killed in day and night, either day or night. But he was killed in the twilight, which is neither day nor night. So in the twilight zone, there may be devotees who are somewhat like demons, or demons who are somewhat like devotees. Basically, there's two kinds of attitudes. Surrender to Krishna or not.
You say that the demonic qualities are only caused by the modes of nature.
No, actually they're not directly caused by the modes of nature. Originally they're caused because we're envious of Krishna. The love of Krishna is transformed into lust. So that is the apparent cause. Just like a clay pot. One kind of cause is the earth, because it's made from earth. But the actual cause is the potter who decides, let's make a pot. So in the same way, the modes of material nature are the cause of demoniac desires. The demoniac desires are made up of the three modes of material nature. But the ultimate cause is the living being's wrong desire. You can't blame it. Oh, the modes are so heavy today. Sometimes we hear devotees say, oh, the modes are really heavy today. But the modes are always heavy. It's up to you to chant Hare Krishna and get out of the modes. You can't blame that. Well, I was overcome by the modes. You rascal, it was you, not the modes. You decided to act within the modes. It wasn't my fault. You shoot someone dead and you go to court. Well, it wasn't my fault, it was the modes of material nature. It caused me to do it.
Can we say that those who are demons have a very deep envy in their heart, and those who are not so demonic, their envy is not so great?
Yes. It's all according to degrees. Just like devotee, more advanced devotee means he has more love for Krishna. And that manifests as more and more service for Krishna. So in the same way, demon, his demoniac nature will manifest by total absorption in forgetting Krishna, material enjoyment. When we're preaching, we have to see different kinds of people, but just when you're preaching, you have to distinguish between different kinds of people, how to deal with them. If someone's very demoniac, Shastra says, upeksha. Those who are demoniac, we should neglect them and ignore them. We don't, because they'll just make offenses. But whatever the kind of people are, we have to see that ultimately everyone's a devotee of Krishna. We have to see that. Otherwise we can't preach. If you think, wow, this guy is just a demon, what's the use? But compassion is the platform of missionary activities that we see. They're a demon, but ultimately no one's a demon. Everyone's a devotee. At the same time, we won't be sentimental and think, well, everyone's just a devotee and everything's nice and everything's well. You have to see that. Hiranyakasipu was Jai. He's a famous devotee. Now he's acting as a demon. He got dealt with as a demon, compassionately by the Supreme Lord. In this age, we have to kill the demons also by killing their demoniac desire, by chanting the holy names, giving them Prabhupada's books, giving them prasad. Prasad is very powerful. I think we've all had the experience of seeing the amazing effects of prasad, how it changes people's attitude. Just can happen instantly, or in the case of hardened demons, it may take some time. But without fail, those who take prasad, their attitude changes.
So we should cook with great love for Krishna and offer it with very prayerfully, and then distribute that, and that will have a great effect. Here there's so many mountains, so people's hearts may be as hard as mountains, but we want that their hearts will melt and flow like a river towards the lotus feet of Krishna. Any other point of discussion? All right, now it's time. I'm a traveling salesman and I sell books. Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.